they're now at that point in the year, or varying. That's why it's sort of annual. State of the franchise thing. We take back and see where we are after all's been said and done, and the carnage is left. As far as everything else, Michelle Paradise put a thing. Season 4, here we go, and they're supposed to be prepping for the next. However, the Directors Guild in Canada, they have on the website, says what shows are actually in production up there, and they shoot in Canada. Star Trek Discovery is not on the schedule at all. So, yeah, they can prep all they want, but nothing is happening. And I was like, well, they changed the name. They only the tactic of shooting under a different name. That's only for like a new show that they're trying to keep the wraps on. And that doesn't fit Discovery. It's a established show, like it or not, and so they would make it very clear that yes, we're in active production. Like you do the alternate name thing, like I said, with the reboot of Doctor Who, with Chris Falconer and all that. Not with the reboot, just the revival. They shot it under the name of Torchwood for a while. That's where the whole came from. Because turns out you rearrange the letters of Doctor Who and you can spell Torchwood, and that's how they got that. And then they liked the sound was they revived the name later on for Torchwood. But they shot out of that for because they wanted to keep it under wraps that they were making Doctor Who. They don't want to keep it under wraps that they'd be shooting Discovery. They want to make it known. Yes, we're bringing more. So the fact that it's not on the schedule means they ain't making more Discovery. That last abominable episode was written to be a series finale. It was basically little upper executive changes at CBS, and the guys who get to tell the executive producers what to do and what they can't do is when the ones put in charge of Star Trek were basically told Kurtzman and the Paradise, wrap it up. You've wasted enough of our time and money. Wrap it up. I mean, yeah, it's open ended enough. It's not like Discovery blows up, darn, but they got their little Chairman Mao uniforms ready to go, and yeah, they're ready to go. And oh God! But the whole thing with putting the little quote of Roddenberry on a card there, and then ending with the original series theme. While yes, very provocative to those in the old guard who think you're not worthy to wash his car. Okay, not the least of which the fact that he was a Rolls. No, he only his trusted aides touch that car. But it's just like no. It was just last little middle finger out the door as they wrapped it up. But if now grant if it suddenly became a big success, and yes, we want there was room to fire things back up and go and do more. But let's go back on what we know. The Discovery sets are all struck. And the little thing about production kicking back up back in November, again, that's, it's Michelle Paradise's thing about, them prepping for another season. It's like, you can prep all you want, and it can happen. And then Doug Jones posted a thing where he shaved his head again so he could do Saru. But he didn't say anything about it being for the new season. In fact, it's speculated that any production being done in November was pickup stuff and reshoots for what we just saw. Probably against green screen. And I also have the theory that the reason why Doug Jones was out of makeup for the last few episodes is they ran out of money. So they had to contrive a little reason to, why suddenly Saru looks like a redheaded human. And while they're at it, just stick a nose on little Ricky, and I guess some spots on Burnham to make her look Trill, but it's like I couldn't tell because it was so damn dark in that scene. It wouldn't make any difference, So there's a pretty good chance that they have already quietly, if not canceled Discovery, at least put it on the shelf where it'll never come back. It's like, the BBC does this occasionally. Doctor Who was never officially canceled, for instance. It just sat on the shelf for about 15 years you know. But they were always open to ideas for somebody to bring back, because by then the BBC realized, yeah, we've been embarrassed by this thing for years, but it is a very very valuable property, and they when they pulled the plug after Survival with Sylvester McCoy, there was never a plan to keep it off the air for that long. Okay, it just nobody ever came up with an idea that they liked until Russell T Davies came along, or Davis. Yeah, it's Welsh. It's a Welsh spelling, but it's pronounced Davis, not Davies. Yeah. So it's Ray Davis of the Kinks, not Ray Davies. He tolerates it because we're ignorant Americans. But
we're all ignorant Americans.
Yeah. But yeah, I think in Strange New Worlds is in pre-production, which could still mean they're sitting around trying to come up with storylines and making drawings. Until they start building sets. Maybe they are building a few, but who knows? And there's been cases of there have been cases where obviously pilots have been shot and set, but never goes anywhere. But there's been a few cases where it's like they've even started production on a show. I mean the pilot, but then it never these episodes never see air. You might see the pilot as a TV movie thing, but otherwise, it's because. So anybody thinking, oh look, they're filming, that's no guarantee of anything. That's the one thing that they have devalued the brand of Star Trek so badly with this thing. It's like, no, you're back in the realm of a regular old TV show now. You don't have a guarantee as Jack. Okay? It's like you get total of 40 some episodes. That's a season and a half of the original series, okay? And they ran the first season on CBS. The only one that had run before on CBS was the first one. Everything else, it was new to you if you're on CBS and never saw CBS All Access. The ratings never got, I think, higher than maybe a 1.8. They were being beaten by reruns of game shows, okay? And the big thing is in the key demographic of the 18 to 34 that everyone's so high that they never got above 200,000 viewers. So yeah, I have been guilty of saying this has got to be it. This has got to be. They got to pull the plug at this point, and again, being proved wrong by they come back and have to say, well, yeah, I underestimated the power of those two little words Star Trek in the title. But I think now it's like that's gone. That's got to be gone by now. CBS they've changed too many heads over there. Moonvez's people are now gone. They got no loyalty to this show whatsoever. So now it's the matter of trying to get out from under that contract he signed Kurtzman to. And in the case of also something that Script Doctor brought up on a Minute's Edge chat is that the deal with Kurtzman actually predates Discovery. The difference being that they couldn't come up with any ideas that amused Les Moonves at all to sign the check. It wasn't until Brian Fuller came on, pitched Discovery, and suddenly, okay, yeah, and then of course Kurtzman does what he can to rat out from underneath Fuller, drive him out, and take over the thing. And that's how we got what we got. So on the one hand, let's be thankful that the Orville didn't sell at CBS, because that situation that Seth was walking into, Kurtzman's already in place, waiting to pounce on whatever idea comes along that gets Moonvez's attention. Yeah, I like that one. And then I think we pretty much established, Kurtzman is a hack. Okay. He has been aided a lot by being on shows where more talented writers than him were able to, correct things and keep things on a track here. Roberto Orsi's looking a little better, although I still got a problem with that twerp, because, his idea for trying to make Star Trek Into Darkness sort of a 9/11 truther allegory. It's like, don't even go there, okay?
Right. Those two are the same hacks that ran off a bunch of veterans.
Yeah, a little something happened during the making of Hawaii Five-0. They were shooting at the military cemetery there at the Punch Bowl, overlooking Pearl Harbor. And there were a group of veterans that were doing a ceremony over there. And Kurtzman and this bunch of tried to, hey, we're trying to shoot them, and got the whole production in serious trouble. Because there's a thing, and they're shooting over in Hawaii. They're on a military base. They're at the mercy of that base and the veterans organizations. So, I think it was Lenkoff had to come in. Peter Lenkoff, the other executive producer, and probably the real driving force in that show, had to smooth over a lot of ruffled feathers. And I think it was also points out, like, you guys stay out. Okay? You damn near cost us the entire production. Okay? So, and I've also, there's been a comment, I think maybe in Kit Kat, but to point out that what Kurtzman is done here, they did the same thing on Hercules and Xena, where they just start seeking to undermine the whole thing and tell the fans to go shove it or whatever, it's just, and then this time it's finally a big enough production that it's finally got noticed. And also, these guys in charge, no one's in the position to tell them to shut the fuck up and go away. So, at this point, looking over the carnage, we get 3 execrable seasons of Discovery, one season of Picard, and again, under the current circumstances, no one wants to insure Patrick Stewart for another year. And that is always one of the key things in getting a show like this going. One, you better have a good catering service. But also, you have to have everybody insured. Especially if you got a case where there's a lot of, special effects and stunts or whatever. The way they build them now, they build the entire sets on gimbals so they can shake it around. Can you imagine if Patrick Stewart fell down on the bridge and broke his hip? Or even if they didn't build on gimbal, but he's acting like it and falls, slips, and breaks the hip. It's like, he's over 80 years old now. We're approaching, around 80 years old now. There's a point where the body just doesn't heal, and that is a bad break no matter who you are. But you're in the 80s, like, that doesn't necessarily heal. That's a extreme effect of what finished off my mom when she finally fell and broke, Oh, yeah. And under the current circumstances, it's like, Patrick Stewart is, probably one of the poster children for the risk group for the current conditions. So it's like, no, it'd be all green screen shot at his house. You can't do a show like that when he's the title.
80 years old. Exactly.
Exactly, yeah. He'll turn 81 in July. You could do it with William Shatner, because William Shatner's a hell of a lot healthier. I think because he mentioned in an extra for the original series DVD sets that he's got a condition where his brain produces like 5 times the normal levels of dopamine. So his mind is as active as ever, and he's always turning energy. He could run me into the dirt, he's pushing 90. In fact, he'll be 90 this year or next year. And he looks about 10 years younger than Patrick Stewart. So,
Who?
William Shatner.
Okay.
But even then, you probably would find a little bit trying to get, the years are the years. Okay, how healthy he is. You're going to have trouble injuring even William Shatner. So, no, season 2 of Picard, God willing, the creek don't rise, will not happen. Not with Patrick Stewart, at least. Unless they pull something straight and where they kill off Jean-Luc Picard off camera and then rename his ship, rename whatever the hell that ship was, the Picard, which was a theory going on for a while.
Shatner's 89.
Yeah, Shatner's 89. So he turns 90 in March. But yeah, the only show we have assurances is going to be continuing is Lower Decks. And that really is the only show of the whole misgotten mess that can be argued is in the proper Star Trek canon timeline. Its big problem is not everyone likes that type of humor. I'm fine with it. I don't have the highly revered thing, everyone in Starfleet is the best of the best of the best. No, you can't do that. One, you can't do it and have a very interesting group of characters. You got to have somebody with some foibles here, and especially with a sitcom. Because comedy is kind of dependent on someone doing something stupid or someone messing up here to cause the comedy situation in the first place. And also, it's not realistic that you got an organization that large with that many people, and not everyone is going to be out there representing Earth's finest, okay? On ships like the Enterprise or the Titan, ones where they're actually going out there making first contacts, yeah, sure, you're going to have, perfection of humanity as much as you can get on that. And again, back to the same thing where you got to make it interesting for people to watch. But as pretty much shown when the last episode of Lower Decks, they're not even the same division of Starfleet. They got totally different uniforms and definitely a totally different mission profile. These, and they're also a very broad definition of second contact. It's like they're not necessarily the second ship there. Their first contact is a big process where they're starting relations with, they're meeting them. Second contact is when you come in, you've already got that established. And now you're coming in with this infrastructure and setting up equipment. Everyone knows you're getting the names of the restaurants for the Zagat's guide, and you're basically you're delivering pizzas at this point. You're not trying to put forth. They've already met the Federation. They know what they do. And so no, you're not going to get the best and the brightest of Starfleet at that point. You're going to get guys who are just doing a job and they're trying to uphold some standards, but no one's expecting these guys to make any kind of first. They might make a first contact, so they got to be training for that one. But it's not the demand. They come across something like this. The first thing they should do is call the Enterprise, have them come in and do this. And so my big thing with Lower Decks is it needs to be balanced with another show in that era. Live action would be best, but you could get away with a more seriously rendered animated show. Like, say, a Titan show. Because, I'm sorry, Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis are a bit up there to be, squeezing back in those uniforms, but they still got the voices. So you could do a less cartoony version of an animated, Star Trek Titan show, where you're doing serious storylines, and that would balance out the goofiness going over on Lower Decks. And I think that would make it a little more palatable to some people. Because I said before, it's like, Lower Decks being the sole representation of Star Trek now is like McHale's Navy being the sole representation of World War II. You undercut a lot of actual drama that happened, even with the PT boats. I'm not entirely sure how successful they really were. I think a lot of those boats didn't quite make it, or inflict enough heavy damage. I don't know. I'd need to look into it more, but yeah. And Mike McMahon has got himself like another 5-year deal of his own with CBS. And I can easily conceive of Kurtzman's deal expires, they don't renew it, and send him packing. At least they got other shows going. He's doing his Clarice thing, which seems to be part of his crusade to undermine Brian Fuller at every turn. When countering him with the Hannibal, because Fuller did try to get the rights to do Clarice and then you could do a crossover, but he got turned down. Somehow Kurtzman snaked the rights to Clarice from under him, and he's going on that one. I've heard that one is rather abysmal too, but that's by and by. Mike McMahon, who is the big showrunner on Lower Decks, and he's surrounded himself. He's a big fan himself. He's surrounded himself by big fans. They know the stuff. They know how to look it up, and they know how to apply it properly. So, yeah, Lower Decks isn't going anywhere, and I can easily see them, future seasons, there will be no secret hideout attachment on the end. There will not be a football team's worth of producers listed on the front. You know, that is one of the stupidest. The opening credits for Discovery. Where in the hell have they listed costume designer, production designer, all these other in the opening credits? Where the hell did... I think this is the first time I've ever seen that kind of crap in an opening credits of a TV show. Opening credits are for listing, showing the title of the show, the key cast members, and then created by whoever. Like NCIS, you got a thing with NCIS, National Naval Criminal Investigators, and then Mark Harmon, Sean Murray, and then created by Donald Belisario, and then you're onto the episode. Or just think any of the originals, any of the past shows. It's like Star Trek, then created by Gene Roddenberry, and William Shatner, then Leonard Nimoy as Mr. Spock, and DeForest Kelley as Dr. McCoy. That's it. Yeah. Or slightly differentiated, pick a, like Barnaby Jones, a Quinn Martin production starring Buddy Ebsen and Lee Meriwether. It's just bizarre. I think the way they do it. You're getting the costume designer, the makeup, the writer, and lighting, whatever. Just list the caterers too. I read it too. And usually like 20 producers. If that wasn't a red flag to somebody somewhere, it's like, what show has 20 producers? You generally got one or two executive producers, and in that case, one of them's doing the actual production stuff, the number crunching, the other one's handling the writers. That's where we had Rick Berman and Michael Piller. And then get a couple of line producers, and that's it. And you don't list them in the opening credits. Or I'll tell you about current example. Besides NCS, the Orville. You had the Orville, or Fox Presents the Orville, and then Seth MacFarlane, Adrian Palicki, yada, created by Seth MacFarlane. You save the written by and directed by credits for the actual episode title, at the beginning, and you save all the technical stuff for the closing credits. So I just want, who the hell is advising these people how to arrange the credits? It's bizarre, But yeah, with the little, as it was pointed out that, like I said, I put another one, that another video, that the weird wide neck guy in the old, season TNG uniform. Like besides, I don't think the color was quite right, but that's another issue. It's the lighting. They had the wrong comm badge. They fixed that in post, but they didn't fix the fact that he had no rank pips. And he was identified as a lieutenant commander, but he came from a universe that was, screwed over by an incursion by a Romulan mining vessel. Definitely a reference to JJ Trek. But, that's been taken to mean that this is not canon Star Trek. They just admitted it. And it's been pointed out, no, they said this guy came from the JJ Trek. Either way, I don't think we have to go that far, though. Just look at the technology and the uniform, everything else. Nothing matches the original series at all. In fact, they pretty much blew that wad in the opening 5 minutes of the first episode. Between just the goblin-look Klingons and everyone having the Delta Shield when it was fairly well established, despite the objections of Bob Justman, that no, every ship had its own insignia. The closest thing to a Starfleet insignia was that kind of starburst pin you'd have on like Commodores and stuff. And again, there were production errors here and there, like when the court-martial, where the other guys who were cleaning out the Enterprise crew wearing the thing. It was a little bit in flux, but by and large, when they had the money for the patches, which Bob Justman had to approve, mind you, because he was the line producer, they would have a separate insignia for a different ship. Or you had Mr. Hansen on the Outpost. He had a different little, patch on there. It's sort of a fish, you know. Or someone from Starfleet that have that, you know, Starburst pin on there. I think I found one of those pins at ArcStore, you know. So apparently it's a very common thing. And, you know, Commodore Decker had that little thing, which actually was a cut out of a lace doily. And the mostly thing was the Exeter. And that's the one that prompted his memo from Bob Justman. He was keep signing. Everyone's with the same thing, but also he signed the Grand Inquisitor or whatever. So you wonder how serious was Justman when he made that little missive, too. But that's where the biggest example was the Exeter. You had the big, you know, rectangle, and they had to make a few of those patches. So you had a lot of uniforms, got a real good look at. It wasn't just a one-off like Commodore Decker, you know. So again, the insignia front, they screwed that one up. And that one I kind of blame Fuller on that one personally, you know, a little bit. Because he was of the, you know, when he was on Enterprise, he was of the camp that everyone had that insignia, and he had to get he was kind of overruled by Okuda and Drexler. And I was like, no. And that's why the Defiant crew had that kind of boomerang insignia on there. And I'm sure somebody's going, well, look at the, you know, from the Tholian Web. There are no really clear pictures. You can, there's a few you can see, but you got, you know, it's unless you know those are Enterprise, you know, spare. Everyone, you know, who was close up, they either were on the beds with a strap across it covering the insignia, or they're laying on their stomach so you can't see anything. Even on the bridge with the captain's, and the guy's arm is covering over the captain's insignia. They're making a very concerted effort to not show those insignias on those tunics. So at least by then, it's like, well, yeah, but we can't afford to do insignias for dead people. So just hide them as best you can. But getting back to the main point of the video, state of the franchise, it's about the same. Although we're now more reassured that the actual franchise of Star Trek is still safely behind that legal barrier of where you got the thing, you know, the regular, you know, original series and sequels up top that divide, and then everything else below, you know, the JJ and the Abrams shit. You know. It's just a matter of getting Kurtzman out of the way so that the barrier can go away, and also those other shows will go away, and get somebody back there to do some real Star Trek. And it'll probably be Mike McMahon at this point. He's got the inside track on that. It'll probably be another anime because his strength is, you know, his background is animated shows. So there'll probably be a few no more animated stuff. And again, what we really need is a serious, dramatic Star Trek show set in the same time period as Lower Decks, to balance out the lunacy going on Lower Decks. Now, as far as live-action Star Trek, nothing's happening. They may eventually come around to a movie, but again, once they're finally clear of Kurtzman and his much, because apparently if they do it, Kurtzman has dibs on it, and that brings back Bad Robot, and that way lies disaster. So that's about it for there. As for other items, I'm finally getting some work done on the Concordance, because I finally was able to get a PDF copy of the last version. So I'm not faced with the prospect of having to hand type all this crap over by hand. I can just cut and paste and, you know, tweak, you know, the formatting errors. And then it's just a matter of inserting the new information, which is still quite a bit, actually, because, yeah, there's not much. There's maybe a couple more episodes from Next Gen, maybe a few more, you know, one or two, maybe three from Voyager, but there's a hell of a lot of Enterprise. In fact, almost the entire fourth season. And a few in the early ones. In fact, the number of entries between, say, the 76 version of the Concordance and this one in the works, the number of entries about doubles as far as, you know, episodes and movies go. So to answer the question of will there be a wheel like the 76 version, I think it would probably be a two-face wheel or two wheels, because there's enough information for two wheels now. Now you got to figure out a way to do a wheel, but that would be a case of It will not come with the wheel mounted. I can tell you that right now. If it comes with a wheel, you'll have to mount it yourself. It'll be a simple thing. It's the hole in the here's your hole. Here's take a brad to go. There you can spin it. And I'm thinking probably best do that as a separate thing because I don't I want a really kick-ass cover. We were gonna have Gabe Kerner do it, but Gabe turned out to be a flaming jackass. So
Exactly.
we'll be looking for other one. Hopefully soon I can get this into good enough shape and get approved by Bijo that we can finally start soliciting more artwork. Because one of the highlights of the concordance in all its forms has been the fan art. And one of the frustrations of the last version is the decided lack of fan art, meaning the fact that who knows how many pieces were actually approved by Bijo and then deleted by the editors of the thing. I had just myself over 20 pieces approved to be in the concordance, and it got down to just one. And it was shrunk down to about the size of a postage stamp. So, we shall see. Okay? That's something when I start going through, make sure that at least that picture is back in there and belong to a proper sizing, see what's going on. But yeah, that's finally working on there. At least get a good, at least get the current information in there, and then we can start working on the new stuff. And I saw a thing where Bill Shatner's going to be back up in Ticonderoga at those sets in July. He used to like them. I would love it. Not necessarily do a fan event, but I would love to see him see the sets down in Kingsland, Georgia. And just watch his reaction. Okay, this is what it's like. This is what it's like back then. Because Ticonderoga is like those are all perfected. And everything's got all the walls in. It's more like a recreation of the ship than it is the sets. Because you go in, they're piping in sound effects. The bridge is completed all the way around with a view screen. And the reality is really closer to Kingsland, Georgia, where it's like, no, there is no view screen on the bridge. In the real, yeah, they had a view screen, but most likely it was gone. It was off to the side. These couple of, because you had camera access in there, and the cameras back in the day were huge. You might have it on a crane, but usually it's still ain't room to get the thing in there to get a good shot. And most of the sets, there's a wall missing over there for the camera. There's no ceiling. It's all the lights. And it's really more. And also, you get into the transporter console. It's not that pretty when you get it. Look at it for real. Yeah, there's the buttons are loose. You push on the door. Oops, sorry. Push right on through the console. It's like but they look great on camera, and that's the point. It has to look great on camera. Who cares what it looks like in real life? So, and like I said, the bridge is like they got in Ticonderoga. They got little flat, plasma screens all around and actual computer monitors, on the lower things there. And the bridge, is a big, like, how big, gigantic, flat screen. And again, Georgia, it's like they don't have they were gonna get a view screen, but they can never justify anything in a story to where they actually build it themselves. Where you see it on the Star Trek Continues episodes, it's like it's CGI, because they just need to just shot on the screen. You don't need to build one thing; just do a CGI thing and done. They were operating very much under the same constraints as the original series as far as money and time, and they managed to crank out 10, 11 episodes in pretty quick order, especially compared to other productions. Because the Starship Exeter bunch, they put out 2 episodes. I mean, God bless them. And those sets, at least the bridge set still kind of lives in Arkansas now. But the second episode, which was a very monumental effort, the Tressarian intersection, it took, I don't know how many years between the time principal photography ended And the last, in fact, the last act was released. They released it one act at a time. The first 3 acts came out fairly close to each other, but the last act took years before it finally saw the light of day. In fact, it was becoming a running gag on Trek PBS. You know, the quest for the 4th act of the Tertiary intersection. And it is a very good watch. Dennis Bailey wrote that, said in a statement that strangely got me in very big trouble over on Trek BBS. But I said, Dennis Bailey is personally he's a raving jackass. Not a very person, but he's also a very good writer and a pretty good CGI guy. So it's like the statement was actually kind of a bit of a compliment, but the fact that I decided he was a jackass kind of got me in trouble over there. And kind of the building of reasons why I'm no longer on Trek PBS. In fact, I'm in permabanned. In fact, I will still read it that T-Bone's over there. She is a fascist. Okay, the fact that she cite these things. Why are you going to only appeal to her? And she cited, over 10 violations. I looked at my record, I had 3, okay? It's a condescending little you keeping separate books on me, lady? Take your BBS and shove it up your ass, okay? And I joined a very long list of people who are also permabanned from Trek BBS. It's the kind of first little sign that, yes, the politically correct SJW types are taking over here. They took over Trek BBS. Well, that's it. So, where does the franchise... I keep going around this thing. What is the state of the franchise? State of the franchise is... It's there. It's still living. It's been devalued greatly by the efforts of Kurtzman and his bunch. But... And I don't think... And I'm fairly confident now that finally there will be no Star Trek Discovery. There won't be no Star Trek Picard because of the hurdles that production has to face. We will see more Lower Decks. And a lot of the complaints about that show were really in the first couple episodes, and they were lame because that was what the network wanted. After that point, they let McMahon and his bunch kind of run their own thing, and the episodes got stronger. You got more character development. You got a little more where Beckett Mariner was not even as grand as she said she was, which it's and once you get to the whole thing, you go back and watch it again. Yeah, it is a lot of bluster. I've been in 5 years. I'm never wrong. She is whistling past the graveyard a little bit. Okay, she's trying to puff herself up, but she knows she's screwed up here and there. One day we may hear exactly what happened on the what is this, Aceto or something. Or whatever her old ship was that got her busted down to, ensign. That's another thing. People trying to compare Mariner with Burnham. What happened to Burnham as far as being, her little thing being, found guilty, whatever, but then next thing you know, she's back on this, she's on Discovery, and they reinstate her within, a couple episodes. Well, provisionally, by the end of the season, she's restored and back in the game. And you haven't learned a damn thing, have you? Mariner, on the other hand, no, she hasn't learned a damn thing, and it's shown because they even try to promote her to lieutenant, and she deliberately does something screwy to get herself busted back to ensign. Okay, mouth out in front of an admiral. Embarrassing the captain, the senior crew. Okay, something's going on here. She really doesn't want to be a high-ranking officer. Even lieutenant is too high for her, And they started bringing, going into this thing about, she's had problems with her mother and whatever. There's a lot of character development going on there that people are really just blown off because they're just chalking it as another Kurtzman Trek insult. No, it's not Kurtzman Trek. It's, Kurtzman's name on this thing means no more than Kathleen Kennedy's name on The Mandalorian. The Secret Hideout Bunch are not running that show. So that's why I'm continuing my little campaign. It's like, give this show an even chance here, okay? Forget the secret hideout bill in the back and Kurtzman's name on the front, and all the other producers don't do a damn thing with that show. The only one really run is Mike McMahon and his writers. Okay, you may get notes for him. I think those notes are probably ignored. You know, except on the rare occasion. Okay, that's not a bad idea, but otherwise, like, nah, it's okay. Thanks for the input, Alex, but we got this. You know. In fact, one thing I would like to see is, it's probably not going to happen because they're still kind of a little hostile to the show, but they've mellowed a bit over the course of that first season, is to have Mike McMahon on Midnight's Edge and they can actually talk this out. But that's probably not going to happen for a while yet. I think we're probably going to see Gina Carano show up on Toxic Femininity or Babe Menace first. Now that Drunk 3PO has laid the groundwork for that, I hope that happens. But that's where we stand here. And again, like I said, work is actually progressing now on the Concordance. Now that I finally got stuff I can work with, and also finally got myself a model of the Refit Enterprise here. Kind of find out that this is, I wonder, was this one of Thomas Sasser's designs? Because it's very complicated, and it's one of those where it's like, you better plan on building, and that's it, because it's not going to come apart very easily. And realistically, this is going to require some glue here in spots, like, especially back here where the pegs aren't quite working. But it is a very good model. But I think it may be breaking a few pegs off to get it to stick together. Mainly, they got that as a preparatory thing for when I get another one of these, along with another original series, Enterprise model, and smash them all together into my little ship, the Eldridge. Which is probably also why I'm not object too much to the lower decks, because it's similar to an idea I had myself for a number of years for a Star Trek sitcom. It should be noted that Roddenberry himself played with the idea of a Star Trek sitcom, okay, with Harry Mudd, and you would not have seen humanity at his best in that one either, okay. But and so we got things to do there. So that's where we stand there. So PayPal, Patreon down below. Especially, I'm going to start pushing the Patreon a bit because there's a $1 level on that. And even if just 10% of the people subscribe to this channel did just $1 a month on there, a lot of my problems would go away, okay? Because right now, I got two poor people on there. I'm getting a total of $6 a month out of that one, okay? And the only reason I got 11, because I forgot about it last month, and $11, yeah. But yeah, with YouTube pulling the crap it's doing right now, and just either screwing with the algorithm so that nothing makes any money on there, it's like you got to do the alternate sources here. So the Patreon, my Patreon used to pull out $50 a month here. Now it's like two people getting $6 a month here. So I'm really going to start pushing this a little bit. It's like, look, if you think this channel's worthwhile, $1 a month, that's all it'll cost you. Get enough people on there, and it adds. We've got 12, almost 1,300 people on this thing, and just 10% of that, it's like 120 people. With $1 a month, it helps. It helps a whole lot. Okay. Also got Subscribestar. That one is in limbo because I had one subscriber on there for a while. They did a 50. It's 26 cents away from being able to pay out. Okay, and it's been hanging there for a while because right now there's no active subscribers on there, but it's there. If somebody wants to be a little more generous and get away from Patreon's little shenanigans with occasionally canceling people. And also a whole list of other options down below there, but those are the main ones. The PayPal's direct, immediate, and nobody gets a cut. So that's real good for occasional jams. Patreon is for, and Subscribestar for sustainability, really. And everything else, it's what it is. Okay. So I got to start helping that a little bit. Cause people, you're making... No, at this level, nobody's making any money. I might get a check from PayPal, from YouTube in about 6 months at this rate. Because it doesn't pay out until you get $100. And this is, of course, after YouTube's taken their bite. So, the life of a lowly YouTuber trying to make it in this world. So, with that, we will talk at you later.